So here's the deal, I was gonna title this video like first time listening because I thought I had never heard Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds before, until I opened up his Spotify page and realized that this is the guy or group that created, first of all, Red Right Hand, the theme song to Peaky Blinders, and Oh Children, that song from the Deathly Hallows Part 1 movie. And I thought both of those songs were really good and really creative, really just kind of well done, very interesting. So I can't say that I've never heard this artist before because I definitely have, even though it's just those two songs. And I just read a bit about Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, and like, holy cow. With that said, upon the release of this album, knowing how this guy or this group's sound is, I'm expecting something quite profound and quite emotional. Can't say that for sure, but other than that, we are jumping in totally blind. So, this is the Wild God album from Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Let's go ahead and jump into it. 3, 2, 1, and go.
On the shore of the lake, the old man sat and watched a woman bathing. With its golden touch, the light was such that the moment was worth saving. And he sang the song of the lake, the song of the lake. And all the king's horses and oh, never mind, never mind. And he knew that he would dissolve if he followed her into the lake. But he also knew that if he remained upon the shore, he would in time evaporate. He sang the song of the lake, the song of the lake. And all the king's horses, oh, never mind, never mind. And he knew that even though he had found heaven, such as described in the ancient scrolls, still he felt the drag of hell upon his old and mortal soul. And he sang the song.
Honestly, great imagery, great storytelling. It feels like I'm hearing an audiobook read to me. How would I describe his music? It's hard to find the words to describe it. The word that's coming to mind right now is elegant. Some very well written strings and background vocals. What a distinct voice. I mean, of course he's not like making any attempts for his like range to go insane, but oh man, he's just got such a distinct voice. Like, I know who it is within 2 seconds who's singing. But for me, that's like, oh, it's the guy from the Peaky Blinders theme song. But still, you can tell who it is immediately. So maybe some of you have heard this track yet. I have not heard any. Something tells me that he, or at least a few people in this group, are classically trained. You know, you don't usually hear these sort of progressions and build-ups in a lot of popular music today. Beautiful, transcendent. Got the harpsichord in the background. So again, like, obviously, at least some of this album must be about, of course, like the issues and the tragedy that he's been going through in his life. Rest in peace to his kids and all that. I'm not gonna know though what is about that and not, unless it's pretty clear and open. So let me know in the comments which songs, if any, are about his kids, or what are they about? I want to know. Or is it just an abstract story? That was a really interesting transition. Wow, epic. We're going around the world. That's such a cool transition. Wow. Again, pretty profound, definitely. Very enjoyable. What a suspenseful first few songs, right? It sounds like we're just building up to something, right? But all of it sounds like like building up. Such a like enigmatic writing style. It's so raw. It's such a like emotional, honest, and just raw sound to these tracks. Mainly his vocal performance. Throwing in a lot of themes of life and death. Regardless of who it's about, right? It's definitely tackling that theme. Guilt as well, probably. What a trip, man. It's crazy. This next one's called Joy. It sounds like a church or like a gospel type thing happening here. Now it reminds me of a war movie. Oh man. Voice came low and hollow. Over by the window, voice came low and hollow. Spoke into my pain, into my yearning sorrow. Spoke into my pain. Who was it I cried? What wild ghost is coming agitation? Who's around his head? Goodness. Yeah, man. Can you imagine something like that happens to you, and you just gotta wake up every day like that? This flaming boy who sat on a narrow bed, this flaming boy said, we've all had too much sorrow, now is the time for joy. Oh, man. that gospel chorus. Man, he really does fit that, like, preacher character so perfectly. Was he actually a preacher? Because he sounds like he was. It's like listening to a gospel version of slam poetry. So beautiful.
I jumped up like a rabbit and fell down to my knees. I jumped up like a rabbit and fell down to my knees. I called all around.
God, what a soaring chorus and band in the background.
Mercy on me, please. For joy, for joy, for joy. For joy, for joy, for joy. Jumping for joy.
Wow. Talk about an artist taking their experiences and just presenting it to you in such a, I don't know, such a personal way. Wow. Wow. Goodness. It does not matter at all how unradio friendly this stuff could be, right? It's like you just want to show people that song.
The last time you came around here, it was to rescue me. Nothing
Now this is
ever
different,
really
right?
hurt
We get this like keyboard in the background, this dissonant electronic influence.
Nothing ever really hurt,
Super interesting.
not even ordinary pain. With the wind,
God, it's like you asked someone, how do you deal with torment? And over here they're like, let me show you, right? Let me tell you but also show you. And we have an album like this.
are these gods that you now defend? And what purpose do they serve? Now
It is about what I expected. I mean, after hearing about what's happened to Nick in his personal life, and from the two tracks from this group that I have heard before, yeah, this is about exactly what I would have expected.
searching for my hand, searching for your hand, searching for mine.
And clearly the record is taking its time, as it should. Definitely a love for 3/4. It's like Whitney Houston and I Will Always Love You. I wonder if that was intentional. That's such a cool element. It's that keyboard in the background. Not something you would normally expect to be thrown in here, but it works so well. You know, it's quite odd that due to the events that caused this album to be written the way that it was, most likely, it's not depressing, yes, but it's not like somber, you know, like it's oddly very optimistic and uplifting and joyous.
There was a little place in a pretty road
Really beautiful, honestly.
where we mostly did not go.
Now this one is starting to sound a bit eerie.
Next to the place in a field
It's so visual. Such a visual record.
Now then a girl across the
Whoa.
street with long dark hair knelt among the stones in the mystical flare. And the old god drew her into him like a flame.
It almost sounds like something you would hear sitting at a campfire, right? On an acoustic guitar, on a harmonica, hearing this kind of spoken word singing mixture. That's crazy. But yeah, it's like if they had taken that, but put it into a more full band song. Well... Nasty. I think we found a new theme song for another Netflix show or something like that. Man, some of those layers. Gosh, it's making me feel so late to the party because, yes, well, maybe this record isn't going to be something you listen to in every situation. I know this guy's been around for a while. Maybe the 90s, I believe, is when this group started. I can read their artist page here, actually. And it's kind of like, even though I've heard a couple songs, I'm just now discovering what else they have in their discography. And I don't know if this is totally different than the stuff they've made in the past. Wild. Crazy track. Crazy track. Kind of one of the more simple tracks, honestly. Cinnamon Horses. Gosh, it's like I've transitioned into listening to an opera.
I told my friends, I told my
So
friends
gentle.
things were good.
So artistic.
I said we can't love someone without hurting someone.
Just to be clear, I will kind of rarely be listening to to this genre of music in general, honestly. It's rare. I will, but much less often than a lot of other genres. And yet it's still really captivating. Plucked acoustic guitar in the background. Feels like I'm watching a movie.
Love costs everything. You said that.
He's really good at transitioning between these uplifting progressions and these really eerie, like, depressing sounds. It's wild. I love that vocal performance in the background. And that ending. Wow.
I was long inside a dream I could not get loose.
You can definitely tell just with the writing style and the lyrics that this is made by, like, someone that's been doing this for a long time. Long time is the best way I can describe it. I guess most artists that are at it for this long are usually past their prime stuff. You know, like 20 years Alright, you're probably not gonna release another magnum opus anymore. But it sounds like we've got something pretty dang emotional on our hands here. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people regard this as yet another huge album from this artist, despite being around for so long. Beautiful, cute little ending there. 2 more tracks.
She rises in advance of her panties.
Every now and then you get a little bit of an electronic influence in there. It sounds like Daft Punk. That sounded like an a cappella beat there. It was pretty cool. It's still here in the background.
Well, the horses shear.
I like how he's not going overboard with any specific elements here. You know, we hear this larger choral section in the background every now and then. It's not in every track. It's not his trademark thing that's in every chorus. I feel like he does it just enough to make it entertaining. When it comes to adding strings into his track or adding those electronic elements into his tracks, he does all of it just enough, but not too much. Of course, in some of these tracks... Oh, hold on.
Really have fun. Because we just find ourselves mucking around really relaxed, not under pressure. I guess that's how we make up songs. Chocolate said a lot more than anything else.
So clearly this is a mournful track about somebody that has died. I don't know who. I don't know if it's his mom or somebody in his family. But it's kind of like an uplifting track again, you know, something you would hear at that person's funeral, or you could imagine it like that. Last track here. As the waters cover the sea. It's one of those records where it's like, it doesn't even matter if you're religious at all, right? Doesn't matter if you listen to gospel on a daily basis. You can still acknowledge the objective musicality and like art that was really poured into this thing. Yeah, this is just straight up a church song, a Christmas song, something like that. Probably the most religious track on here then. It's like closing it out with a hymn, a prayer, and that's it. Alright, so that was Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds with Wild God. It does kind of like take its time for sure. Listening to the whole record front to back could be a tiring experience for some. It's not something for every situation, of course, and I feel like it would be hard for people who don't really listen to this style of music to really get into this at all. It's definitely a niche that not many casual music listeners are just gonna jump right into. That being said, who cares? It's great. Coming from a non-religious, strictly musical perspective and somebody that doesn't really know much about this group and hasn't been a fan of this group, it's a beautiful record. To me, there's times where it's both heart-wrenching and heartwarming, and the instrumentation is so grand, it's so intense, and yet despite this being so heavily centered around gospel and orchestra, we get a little elements of rock and a little bit of elements of electronic, which is something you would not really expect to see in something like this, and yet it meshed pretty well in here. I don't listen to this genre a lot, but I'm gonna assume that people who do listen to this genre a lot are gonna be enjoying this one. Even if you don't listen to this type of stuff, you gotta acknowledge the artistic nature of this record. So much emotion, so much imagination went into this thing, and you gotta respect that. Despite that, I'm not going to start getting into this group. I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, there's really not any situations that I'm going to be envisioning myself listening to this type of stuff. I can acknowledge how great this record is. It's not going to make me start listening to this group 24/7 though. Regardless, I'm glad I checked it out. Those are my thoughts, but I would love to hear yours, so throw them in the comments and I will read everything, I promise. And with that said, I hope you all have a fantastic evening and stay safe out there, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye and see ya.